a name written in blood. A ruler remembered not for mercy but for terror. He impaled his enemies, by the hundreds, even thousands. To him, mercy was weakness. His name was Vlad. Fact 1. As a child, Vlad was given to the Ottomans, and it changed him forever. Vlad III, who would one day be known as Vlad the Impaler, was born in 1431 in Transylvania. His father, Vlad II, was known by the name Dracula. As a member of the Order of the Dragon, a European chivalric order sworn to defend Christendom. This title would later give Vlad his infamous nickname, Dracula, meaning son of the dragon. But Vlad's childhood was far from noble or legendary. At just 11 years old, his fate took a dark turn. To maintain peace with the Ottoman Empire, his father handed over 2 of his sons, Vlad and his younger brother Radu, as hostages to the Ottoman court in Istanbul. Put simply, Vlad was still a child, but he had already become a pawn in his father's political games. Though the Ottoman palace may have seemed lavish from the outside, for Vlad it was a place of isolation, fear, and psychological trauma. He was forced to grow up far from home, among strangers, surrounded by a foreign language and a foreign religion. And slowly the shadows grew inside him. Fact 2. Vlad and his brother Radu grew up together, but became enemies. Vlad wasn't the only one raised in the heart of the Ottoman Empire. His younger brother Radu was there too, and unlike Vlad, Radu quickly stood out. Charming, handsome, and well-mannered, Radu won the favor of none other than Sultan Mehmed II, the very man who would one day conquer Constantinople. But while both brothers shared the same prison-like palace, their paths split in opposite directions. Radu adapted. He embraced the luxury, the power, and eventually the religion of the empire. He converted to Islam, and in time became more than just Vlad's brother. He became an Ottoman loyalist. Vlad, on the other hand, resisted. He grew bitter, fueled by a deep hatred of captivity and foreign rule. He refused to bow to the Sultan's will. To him, Radu was no longer family. He was a traitor. While Radu rose through the Ottoman ranks, Vlad clung fiercely to his identity, his people, his homeland, and his Christian faith. That loyalty shaped him into a ruthless leader, a cold-blooded executioner to some, but a fierce patriot to others. Years later, the 2 brothers would meet again, not as family, but as enemies on the battlefield. Vlad, the defender of Wallachia, Radu, the commander of an Ottoman army sent to crush him. This wasn't just a political conflict. It was the beginning of a tragic war between love and betrayal, between blood and ideology. Fact 3. Vlad became prince, but his first reign lasted only 2 months. After years in the Ottoman court, Vlad finally saw his chance. In 1448, he claimed the throne of Wallachia in present-day Romania. But his rise to power was anything but smooth. At the time, Wallachia wasn't truly independent. It was a battlefield of influence, torn between the Ottomans, the Hungarians, and the local nobility, each fighting to install their own puppet prince. Ironically, Vlad's first ascent to the throne came with the support of the Ottomans, the very empire he despised. The Sultan gave him a small army, just enough to drive out his rival, Vladislav II. But power came fast and left even faster. Vlad's first reign lasted only 2 months. He wasn't ready. His rival returned and forced him into exile. For Vlad, this was his first major defeat. It was as if the throne whispered to him, "You can have this land, but only if you are strong enough to hold it." This brief taste of power changed something inside him. Vlad realized that royal backing wasn't enough. To rule, he needed more than allies. He needed fear. He needed absolute obedience. And so he vanished into the shadows. But he wasn't giving up. He was planning. When he returned, he wouldn't just reclaim the throne. He would rule it with an iron fist. Friend or foe, anyone who stood in his way would be crushed. Fact 4. Vlad returned and seized power through fear. 20,000 impaled in 1456 after years of exile and political games. Vlad returned to the throne of Wallachia. But this time, he was different, harsher, more vengeful, and above all, a leader who turned fear into a weapon. The land was in chaos. The economy was weak, and the nobles were divided, each secretly aligning with foreign powers, exploiting the people, and weakening the country. Vlad understood that in order to unite the people, fear was necessary. His first move? Purging the boyars. On Easter Sunday, he invited over 200 nobles to his palace. He treated them to a feast, smiled, and acted hospitable. But it was all just the calm before the storm. Suddenly, he signaled his soldiers, and all the nobles were killed on the spot. It wasn't just revenge, it was a warning. There will be no betrayal, deceit, or greed in my reign. Then came the true horror. When pro-Ottoman forces in Wallachia rose up, Vlad responded with blood. He had approximately 20,000 people impaled on stakes. Their bodies were arranged along the roads for miles. When Sultan Mehmed II's army arrived, they were confronted with the gruesome sight. Blood, fear, and silence. Vlad had made fear his language, and everyone understood it. Fact 5. Vlad's rule was so just and disciplined that a golden cup was left in the street for days without being stolen. Imagine this: medieval Europe, where thieves are everywhere, the justice system is weak, and people live in constant fear. But in Wallachia, under Vlad's rule, the situation was completely different. Even the smallest theft was punished by death. This created a strong sense of security among the people. They knew that if they wronged someone, Vlad would not show mercy. One of the most famous legends goes like this. Vlad had a large fountain built near Lake Snagov. In the middle of it, he placed a golden drinking cup for the entire public to use. The cup remained there for days, even weeks, but no one, neither the poor nor the rich, touched it, because everyone knew, if Vlad has done this, it's a test. Anyone who tries to take it will die on the spot. Vlad wanted to send a clear message to his people. I protect you, but no one who defies the law will go unpunished. Vlad wasn't just someone who instilled fear in his enemies. He was a leader his people trusted, just, but strict, like a father figure. People both loved and feared him at the same time. Fact 6. Vlad didn't fully side with either the Ottoman Empire or Europe. He played both sides against each other. The 15th century in Europe was a time of great political turmoil. On one side, the Ottoman Empire was expanding, while on the other, Hungary, Poland, the Pope, and the Roman Catholic Church were trying to stop the Ottomans' advance. Wallachia stood right in the middle of these two worlds, a small state, but one of great strategic importance. To survive in such a world, you either had to become a puppet of an empire, or you had to play both sides against each other. Vlad chose the second option. Although he had been held as a hostage in the Ottoman court during his youth, he harbored a deep hatred for the Ottomans. However, he knew how to use them without directly opposing them. He tricked them, gained their support, and took the throne, only to turn his back on them once he was in power. When it came to Europe, Vlad wrote letters to Pope Pius IV and King Matthias Corvinus of Hungary, presenting himself as the defender of Christianity. He claimed he was fighting against the Ottomans and protecting the Western world. While doing so, he sought financial support, weapons, and diplomatic recognition from Europe. He was willing to deceive both sides to keep Wallachia independent. Fact 7. Vlad nailed Ottoman diplomatic hats to their heads because they didn't remove them one day. The Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II sent a diplomatic envoy to Wallachia. They came supposedly to discuss peace terms with Vlad. The diplomats were received respectfully at the palace, but Vlad noticed that they did not bow their heads or remove their turbans. In fact, this was normal behavior, according to Ottoman protocol. Muslim diplomats didn't remove their headgear for religious reasons. However, to Vlad, this was a sign of disrespect. Vlad coldly remarked, "You don't remove your turbans because that's how you were taught. Well, let me help you so that you never forget to remove them again." He then ordered that the turbans be nailed to the diplomats' heads alive. This act wasn't just physical, it was a psychological message. Vlad wanted to show that in his lands, his rules applied. No empire, not even the Ottomans, could impose their conditions on him. Fact 8. Vlad waged psychological warfare against the Ottoman army, creating a forest of corpses to terrorize the enemy in 1462. Sultan Mehmed II, known as Mehmed the Conqueror, marched on Wallachia with an army of over 100,000 men. His goal? To overthrow Vlad and bring Wallachia under Ottoman control once again. This wasn't just a war, It was a showdown between two powerful leaders. On one side was Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople. On the other was Vlad, a prince sworn to defend his land. Vlad knew it would be difficult to defeat such a large army in an open battle, so he waged psychological warfare instead. As he retreated, he burned villages, poisoned wells, and emptied food stores. His aim was to keep the Ottoman army hungry, exhausted, and disoriented. When the Ottoman forces neared the city, they were confronted by a forest made of 20,000 corpses impaled on stakes. These weren't random victims. Among them were Vlad's traitorous enemies, captured Ottoman soldiers, and criminals. Vlad had impaled them all, creating a fearsome sight that stretched for miles. When Sultan Mehmed and his generals saw this, they halted their advance. Historians note that this scene demonstrated Vlad's calculated cruelty and strategic mind. The Ottoman army struggled to move forward, and their campaign ended in failure. After this, Vlad earned a reputation as a brilliant psychological warrior, feared both in Europe and the Ottoman world. Fact 9. The real meaning of Vlad's Dracula name and why it struck fear across the world. Vlad's father, Vlad II, was known as Dracula, which comes from the Latin word Draco, meaning dragon. Vlad II was a member of the Order of the Dragon, an organization created to defend Christianity. Thus, Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler, adopted the name Dracula, meaning son of the dragon, in honor of his father. In both Latin and Old Romanian, the A suffix signifies son. Therefore, Dracul, a dragon, became Dracula, son of the dragon. However, over time, this name took on a darker, more sinister meaning. During the 15th century, Vlad's infamous cruelty, especially his practice of impaling people, became so horrifying that European writers and travelers began to write terrifying tales about him. In the German and Slavic sources of the time, Vlad was depicted as a demonic figure. These chilling depictions later caught the attention of English author Bram Stoker. In 1897, when he wrote his iconic Dracula novel, Stoker took Vlad's name and transformed it into the vampiric character we know today, forever associating Dracula with fear and darkness. Fact 10. Vlad's tragic end, betrayal, insult, and the end of a legend in the shadow of death. The nobles in Wallachia were dissatisfied with Vlad. His harsh rule and refusal to show leniency had sparked growing discontent. Seizing the opportunity, the Ottomans supported Vlad's brother, Radu Selfrumos, and helped him claim the throne of Wallachia. Vlad sought refuge with the king of Hungary, Matthias Corvinus, hoping for aid. But a surprising turn of events occurred. To avoid upsetting diplomatic relations with the Ottomans, Matthias portrayed Vlad as a traitor and a dangerous man, imprisoning him for nearly 12 years. This was the greatest humiliation for Vlad. Once a hero of his land, Vlad was now a prisoner in a palace, silenced and powerless. In 1476, he was released and attempted to reclaim the throne of Wallachia. It was his final attempt. Although he briefly regained power, he was killed in battle while fighting against Ottoman-backed forces. Some sources claim he died in combat, while others state he was mistakenly killed by his own soldiers. His exact burial place has never been found, adding to the mystery of his death. Throughout his life, Vlad fought against betrayal, loneliness, and enemies on all sides. Regardless of how he died, Vlad Tepes remains a figure history has not forgotten. His name is still remembered with fear today. Vlad may have died, but the legend he created, Dracula, lives on forever.